Hey review family, keep it tight. My name is J Morris, the review guy, reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the new Charli XCX record entitled How I'm Feeling Now. This is the fourth studio-length album by the English experimental electronic producer, singer, songwriter Charli XCX. One of the most well-respected, eclectic, and forward-thinking artists of this generation in the pop field, Charli XCX had some humble beginnings, I would say, as just generally a pretty straightforward dark wave and a synth pop artist, and in many ways was occasionally written off, but I think a lot of people saw so much potential in her, and the people that were ahead of the curve knew she would be ahead of the curve. Throughout time, she has embraced experimental textures, weird sound design, glitchy bubblegum production, and Charli has become easily one of the most sought after and well-respected artists currently at large. Impressively being able to, alongside A.G. Cook's PC Music Camp, draw more wider attention, international attention, to the very expressive, frantic style of electronic music that she currently finds herself in. And even though nowadays there are a lot of really well-known names, very big producers, very big songwriters, I'm talking 106 Point Never, Girlfriend of the Year, Dorian Electra, Caroline Polachek, 100 Gex, not to mention Sophie, one of my personal favorites, Charli is undeniably spearheading this movement. Easily the most recognizable, easily the most sought after, except maybe Dylan Brady of 100 Gex, who does do production on this record. With A.G. Cook producing her last album, Charli easily her most forward-thinking, her most expansive, her most artistic record to date. I was curious to see how this record was going to shape up, considering the background of it, considering it's a shorter record, although A.G. Cook does do production on this record as well. And Charli's batting average is looking very strong now. It's such an impressive feat to me that she is able to play in these confinements in a way that is so unique, so unlike anything that is happening, so unorthodox, at least at the time that she was doing it. I mean, maybe there was some stuff going on in the underground for sure, but she was really able to rise to prominence. It is just a breath of fresh air to see all of these contemporary artists reaching out to her, wanting to work with her, and vice versa, considering how off the beaten path she is. So never count yourself out if you're doing something avant-garde, something experimental, because that could be the next wave. The new wave, the next wave always has to come from something, and now the anti-pop of the past is now the now-pop of today. And she is effectively able to bridge the gap between unlistenable electronic musical absurdity and tunes that are insanely great to listen to without the r/I'm very smart label. Stepping into this record, I won't lie, I was a bit skeptical. I was curious, was she going to be able to live up to the pressure, live up to the amazing record that Charli was? I didn't want to go into it with some sort of like comparison game. I didn't want to have that be my only focus, is how does this compare to the other album. But when you're coming off the high of such an amazing release, that has to be something at the front of your mind to some degree, or at least subconsciously. And after listening to this record numerous times, I think I can safely say Charli has successfully positioned herself into a 2 for 2.
I just wanna go real hard, pink diamond in the dark. I just wanna go real hard, I just wanna go real hard,
Go real hard, I just wanna go real hard.
I just wanna go real hard, I just wanna go real hard.
This record was birthed from what's going on in the world right now with the you-know-what. This was recorded from her home studio. The recording, the titles of songs, the lo-fi cover art, it all represents that to some degree or another. Looking at this cover art, it might just look like something you could expect from Charli, considering that in the past, especially recently, she's been playing around with a lot of sensual imagery as well as sexual aesthetics, but there's much, much more than meets the eye. Everything from the uncaring stare in her eyes, the extreme dark circles under her eyes, her messy hair, the fact she's not wearing a bra. And don't kid yourself, this is intentional, because you gotta understand this is an artist that is very centered around imagery, vibrant colors, abstract images. And the art that this album shares is a great indication of the general emotions going into this record. And perceiving this record in a vacuum is something to think against, hopefully, as many of the tones on this record are considerably different than was on her last record, although there are a lot of course, similarities and common things. At the end of the day, it is still Charli and A.G. Cook working in tandem to create a record that is very boundary pushing, but not too much, never trying too hard. A hyper-futuristic tone that makes it seem like we are being sucked into her world and we're existing in her world and the artists that surround her, not vice versa. It can be hypnagogic and drifting, but it can also be abrasive and flat-out ear-splitting. The recording is very synthetic, but it's also crisp. It's still very lively, it's bursting with passion, it's bursting with life. It has a larger-than-life style that has such a massive scale to it and a massive scope. And production value is just as flawless as it's ever been. That's one good thing about the whole quarantine thing, is electronic music isn't necessarily going to be super affected by that. And it goes to show that this is inspiring a lot of art, but that's nothing new. People are making a lot of art about this. One major difference I would say is some of the tracks here don't necessarily feel as lavish as some of her others. The implementation of the synths on the track Detonate are a great deal simpler. But she has this soft delivery alongside this percussion that comes in to add a nice kick that is very necessary. And I hope people will begin to understand that while she does care about the album experience, I wouldn't say this is as cohesive and tied in a bow as her last record. These tracks are very much solo endeavors. Ones that involve different techniques, whether it's production, whether it's vocally. If not topically, which gives them all individuality. Generally though, I am enjoying this record as a pop record if you just take away the fact it is an avant-pop record. She's done it again. It's the best pop record of the year that I've heard this far, if you can even call it that. And some of these tracks are downright breathtaking. Pink Diamond has A.G. Cook's name right all over it. I mean, this reminds me a little bit of a track that could have been off of Sophie's record, Oil of Every Pearls on Insides. Grinding layers of electronics and these gothic synths. The mix is claustrophobic and tense, and combine that with her cold delivery, and she just makes it all sound so uneasy. Everything feels on edge, like it's about to burst, even through the repetition of it all. And mostly these tracks do have a balance, they do have a little bit of a cycle to them, a pattern if you will. Dejected avant-pop anthems with various experimental techniques production-wise, and tracks that take more of a low-key, albeit still a cut above many other pop tracks. Tracks that don't necessarily feel like they need to blast your ears and scrape them out. In the way that some of these tracks are just accurate builders talking about her current mental state. The production choices that are chosen on this record are all there to help her, to complement her in this gracious dance. Occasionally there will be a mixture of all three, the dejected, the bombastic, and the low-key, like on tracks like Forever. Gigantic walls of noise will blast you at various intervals, and the bridge is solemn. It contrasts. It's the antithesis. This track really does cycle well. The verses have these subtle shots of glitch and bits and bops in the instrumentation that is hard to decipher, hard to put your finger on. Very meticulously made, very well put together. It's so intricate, and her vocals don't necessarily crescendo so much as they slide along in a very uncaring and mostly defeated tone to some degree. And the latter minute sounds equal parts beautiful and terrifying. I just really have to commend Charli XCX, A.G. Cook, Dylan Brady, and everyone else involved in this record for bringing it together with such an amazing mix, like on tracks like Claws. Yeah, you can feel that Dylan Brady production. It feels quite a bit like 100 Gex, but it's a simple track that really gets to the point quick. And not only does it get to the point quick, it's a solid pop tune with much more than meets the eye. It's much more intricate than it might first appear, and that's how a lot of these tracks function when they're not hitting you in the face. When it's blunt, yeah, you'll get it, but other times you kind of have to dig beneath the surface to really see how much was put into this. I would say that while the first half is by far my favorite, the second half does present some more risks. I would generally say the second half has some more heavier tracks. It gets a little bit more aggressive, I'd say. C20, C2O presents this chilling repetition that is in a very lively mix. It just kind of chills in the backdrop. The second half is full of sweet lathered vocals, just dripping with auto-tune, vocal pitch correction, lots of different effects, booming percussion, and yeah, just solid textures. It is difficult to find much to knock about this record. I mean, sure, some tracks are considerably less eventful, like Detonate, but even they serve as strong lyrical moments for her. And I think very important for her catharsis. We all need that, especially right now in these trying times. And even songs like Enemy, which is by far not one of my favorites, and it kind of feels like Charli XCX 101, is saying something with how good it is. It still is a cut above other tracks in its genre. And tracks that seem a bit cut back, a little bit stripped back, like I finally understand, aren't even that bad. What I'm saying is, just like her last record, this record is just boundary pushing, but it never misses the mark of just being enjoyable. You can either focus on the details and analyze, or just enjoy it as is, and I'm very, very impressed by her, A.G. Cook, and everyone else involved. Yeah, I just really like this record. I'm going to be giving it an 8 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Charli XCX record? How I'm feeling now? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss the record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is J Morse, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off.